Theodore Roosevelt once said, "The man who really counts in the world is a doer, not a mere critic." This was who Theodore Roosevelt was. This is how he lived his life. He lived his life implementing his ideas as a conservationalist into the lives of many. He served as our president. He did many things in North Dakota and addressed many local issues, and he also created many national parks and monuments and set the precedents for parks and monuments that would be created in the future. He was a man who has influenced all of our lives. He has helped America grow. The few things that I want to kind of talk about today are him as a president, how he expressed his ideas as a conservationalist in creating many parks and monuments, and how he addressed necessary issues in North Dakota. First, as president, Theodore Roosevelt created the Sherman Antitrust Act. He felt as though the monopolistic companies that were controlling America weren't fair to all the other little businesses. According to the Cornell Law School, he prohibited trusts, which was the first act that did this in American history, and which regulated companies such as the Northern Securities Company and Standard Oil so that they weren't able to create these big trusts and take away from all the little businesses. Next, in his presidency, he created the Department of Commerce and Labor. This was further extending his idea of monopolistic companies. Under the Department of Labor and Commerce, he regulated the companies so that they couldn't have as much power as they did. Later, this would separate into two departments, the Department of Commerce and the Federal Trade Commission. Next in his presidency, another big thing that he implemented was the Pure Food and Drug Act. Under this act, according to the History, Art, and Archives of the United States House of Representatives, this Upton Sinclair wrote a book called The Jungle, and in this book she explained all the problems that we had in the meatpacking industry and the regulation of food and how they were distributing it. There were many problems. Some of it was poisonous, some of it was expired, and it was making people sick. So under the Pure Food and Drug Act, it says that it prohibits the manufacture, sale, or transportation of adulterated, misbranded, or poisonous foods, drugs, meds, and liquors. Lastly, as president, his next big implementation was the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Under this, it said that we had the power as the United States to regulate other countries and protect the Western Hemisphere. According to the Office of the Historian of the Bureau of Public Affairs, this gave us the ability to go into countries such as Cuba, Nicaragua, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, and regulate and make sure that they had stability in their countries. Basically, now that we've talked about his broad policies, we can continue to talk about him and his ideas as a conservationist. Under the Antiquities Act, which was his first act that he proposed with his idea of conservationalism, and according to the National Park Service, this act gave him and many presidents and all the presidents after him, the ability for the federal government to take land and create national parks and monuments from it. According to Louis Auchincloss in the book Theodore Roosevelt, he created many parks such as the Wind Cave, Crater Lake, Sully's Hill, Mesa Verde, Plot, and he also created many monuments such as Devil's Tower, Montezuma Castle, Petrified Forest, and the Grand Canyon. He also was a big part in the development of Yosemite National Park. After all of his conservationist ideas, he also implemented some in North Dakota. In North Dakota, he first settled as a rancher in Elkhorn. There he hunted and fished, especially on the Little Missouri River, where he, according to the Theodore Roosevelt Center at Dickinson State University, he was given the title of an authentic cowboy. He wrote books while he was in North Dakota, 3 of them being Hunting Trips of the Ranchman, Ranchman Life in the Hunting Trail, and The Wilderness Hunter. He also, in North Dakota, according to the National Park Service, he created the Little Missouri Stockman Association, which basically covered things like overgrazing and organization patterns in North Dakota because there were many issues involving them. And he also started the Boone and Croquet Club, which is still a nonprofit organization in North Dakota today, and it basically regulates everything from like big cattle and like big game. It sets like the precedents for what you can and cannot hunt and stuff like that. Like as a in North Dakota, he addressed any issues while he was here, and then after he became president, which we talked about earlier. Theodore Roosevelt had a huge impact on all of that. He had an impact on each and every one of us, even though he was president from 1901 to 1906. Like the things that he implemented are still present today, and like the Pure Food and Drug Act, it's still going on today. And according to Amy Weiss of the Orbis Cascade Alliance, the last thing he said was, "Speak softly, yet carry a big stick," and this is exactly what Theodore Roosevelt did.